everyone, thank you very much for still being here. We are now closing our conference, and to deliver the closing remarks, we have Dr. Filomeno V. Aguilar Jr., Professor, Department of History, and Chief Editor of Philippine Studies, Historical and Ethnographic Viewpoints.
Thank you, Mike. So on behalf of the journal, we conclude this conference by expressing our gratitude to our keynote speakers and paper presenters in this two-day conference. As you know, you are based in the Philippines, in Europe, and in the Americas. Thank you to our overseas presenters, most of whom have had to put up with the inconveniences of being in a time zone widely different from the Philippines. Our gratitude extends to the audience on YouTube and Facebook. As organizers, we have been surprised but delighted that this online conference has reached a wider audience than the usual in-person conference. Although we have missed some of the dynamics of a face-to-face conference, nonetheless, we have had lively discussions during these 2 days. I'd like to reiterate that questions that were not discussed will be emailed to the paper presenters. And if you have further comments and questions, please send them to us, and we will be very glad to relay those questions to the paper presenters for their response. A year ago, we issued a call for this conference for the purpose of presenting papers based on new research and perspectives that shed light on the complexity of the relationship between the Philippines and Spain in the context of globalization. We are very grateful that, notwithstanding the shift to an online format, your commitment to this conference did not waver. We are particularly glad that early career historians and scholars have energized this conference with fresh insights and assertions, while established historians and scholars have lent their wisdom and exciting new research. The binarism between vicious colonizer and virtuous colonized remains preponderant in the Philippine education system, but an increasing number of studies, including those presented in this conference, belie this simplistic characterization of the past. Native Filipinos have had complex relationship with different types of Spaniards, ranging from conquistadors to friars of different stripes to liberal governors, scientists, and engineers. These complex relationships extended to Chinese, Mexicans, and a sampling of other foreigners. The realities of social, ethnic, racial, and gender differentiation among the natives amid ecological variations also resulted in far from simple relationships among themselves and with the agents of the Spanish Empire. At the same time, the papers in this conference have affirmed that in past centuries of Philippine engagement with globalization, locals engaged with cosmopolitan ideas and the purveyors of those ideas. By the late 19th century, the rise and articulation of Philippine nationalism could not be understood apart from its engagement with trans-imperial and translocal movements of peoples and ideas. But one issue that remains unresolved, even after over 120 years have passed since the end of Spanish colonial rule, pertains to Catholicism, as we have seen in this conference. The Catholic hierarchy wants to celebrate native conversion to the Catholic fold, while academics like ourselves seek to debate its significance, assert gender issues, and rectify perceived historical injustices. What needs further study, which a couple of papers in this conference suggest, is why natives took to Catholicism, an issue that raises fundamental questions about the pre-colonial age, which has been prone to being idealized since the rise of nationalism in the late 19th century. But the question of what were we before Spain is central to social identity and must be answered. In any case, by the late 19th century, locals could argue that they demonstrated greater fidelity to the Catholic faith than those who ruled over them. Many have indigenized the faith on their own terms, as even contemporary cultural rituals attest. At the same time, we can observe that the Hispanized church that persisted until a good part of the 20th century which still may have remnants even today, but nonetheless, for all intents and purposes, that Hispanized church is gone. Without denying the past, Spain is no longer associated with the Catholic Church. The church has been largely Philippinized with its own internal dynamics, even as it has had to face the challenges of relating to the changing character of state rulers. These comments do not capture the rich diversity of ideas presented in this conference. What is vital now is for these papers to see publication so that they can reach an even wider audience. So please allow me to remind our paper presenters to submit by September 30 the revised version of your papers for possible publication in our journal, Philippine Studies, Historical and Ethnographic Viewpoints. As is our standard practice, papers undergo blind peer review. In case some of you need to receive a certificate of participation, please email Mr. Ramil Balubal at rbalubal@ateneo.edu. However, we can only give electronic copies of these certificates. Finally, I would like to thank our team who courageously embarked on something we had never done before. Although we have organized 6 international conferences since 2008, this 7th conference that we are organizing is the very first time that we are hosting an online conference. So my deep gratitude to Dr. Michael Ponte for serving as conference director. Yes, we can applaud him. Ably assisted by Jillian Nava, Ramil Balubal, and Dr. Angeli Tugado. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat, and to all our participants, Diyos mabalos. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Dr. Aguilar. And once again, thank you to all our presenters, our participants. Perhaps we can have, in lieu of a group photo, perhaps a sort of let's turn on all our videos and have a mini wave of sorts. Since we can no longer have a group photo, this is the best that we can do as an alternative. So yes, thank you for being part of this, I should say, historic moment for the journal. Perhaps for the Ateneo de Manila University, as an international conference across different time zones, streamed through 2 different social media accounts. We are so happy that you are with us here. So thank you very much, and goodbye. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.